companies have a tendency to want to live in their inbox since it seems like a very immediate way of communication. So today's agenda is going to be 3 things, right? I'm really trying to keep these webinars kind of hyper-focused. How to organize your inbox for professional success. Email is overwhelming. I think in one of the last webinars that I did, I had, I'm a research nut and I love memes. So you're going to get a lot of that in all my webinars. Is email was invented and first used October 1971, which was the month that Walt Disney World in Florida opened up. And I was born May of that year. So email is just a couple months younger than me. I feel like I've been using it my whole life. But how you can use it, it's a communication medium. It's not your business. It's not a networking platform. It's not a CMS. It's none of those things. It is basically the equivalent of a fax machine or licking a stamp and putting a letter in the mail. And if you think about email that way, you're not going to want to run your business on snail mail. So we're going to talk about how to keep this organized so it's not so overwhelming. I've worked a lot of small business industries. I've worked with quite a number of big corporate, mega, nutso, industries as well, finance, pharma, that kind of thing. And as small businesses can get overwhelmed by email. So we're going to talk about how to organize that for success and sanity, to be quite honest with you. Then I want to talk a bit about how to transfer information from your inbox into a claim management tool. And of course, I know ClaimWizard the best, so I'm going to kind of walk you through that. But no matter what you're using, you should have a way to transcribe that information from your inbox into whatever system you're using to manage your claims, because your email inbox is not a proper archival method for documentation. It's not. It's susceptible to getting deleted by accident. It's susceptible to viruses. Oh my goodness, yes. It's susceptible to being down right now. My email's been down for an hour or two. What if I was going to a depot and needed it? Like, it's not there. Email is not a storage facility. And then I'm going to give you some topics on digital communication methods and tools that work in place of email. If you need help with ClaimWizard, I love y'all, but this ain't the place. We do these webinars for business building skills and education and kind of expanding your horizons on that, not to teach you necessarily the software, although I will dive into that a little bit today. So if you need help with ClaimWizard, these are your 2 avenues. You can go to academy.claimwizard.com and help.claimwizard.com. But we're going to go over some basics here because I find that a lot of us that have didn't necessarily grow up on this stuff, don't even know the origins of a lot of this, and it could be helpful in your day to day. Of course, I'm the meme queen. Everybody loves an inbox zero. You're going to see I almost get to inbox zero every single day. Sometimes you just got to blow it up and start over, right? I think they call it, friends of mine call it declaring email bankruptcy. So what I want to talk about first, what is email good for and what is it not good for? Email is convenient. We all agree on that, right? But it is not always effective. And I want you to realize this when we're talking about email across these different slides and things that I'm going to cover. Email is good for sending and receiving messages. You know what else is good or used to be good? Fax machine, sending and receiving messages. It's a mechanism, it's a tool to get a piece of media, like, text, from point A to point B. It's really good in your industry for communicating written and legal communication, right? So if a carrier emails you something and agrees upon a settlement for something, it's in writing. Hello, hook, line, sinker. We have it in writing. It's a whole lot better to get it in email than it is over the phone, right? So that's what email is good for. What email is not good for is the same things that a CRM or a CRM and workflow on steroids like ClaimWizard is good for, is staff assignment, tasks, what tasks belongs to who, how long they have to work on something. Email is not good for that. It's going to sit in your inbox, and then what's going to happen? You have to remember to go there, or you can set a reminder, or you can have plugins saying remind me in a week. Well, now in a week you just have to do more work and go chase down that same thing. It's really just pushing off the responsibility and the accountability from now until later. And when later comes, it's now and then later. And it's not really a good way of tracking any of this as well. Your inbox is a bloated, full thing of text. Task delegation, it doesn't really help. And my company, as I'm sure yours probably does, you have your own personal inbox, but you probably have a group email, a support email, a claims at email, an inbound, like where all of your info at yourpublicadjustingcompany.com. So that general functional inbox has to be maintained by multiple people. Well, who's picking up the messages? Does stuff get overlooked because you thought somebody else had it and they thought you had it? It's messy. Email is not calendaring, and it's not a way to deal with appointments. Now, I know there are mechanisms in, say, Outlook and Gmail that you can set appointments and kind of bounce it to a calendar, but text in general. I mean, I went through my inbox today, and yesterday I got a voicemail. I called back. She wasn't available. So I sent an email. That email then became 6 back and forth and back and forth. And when do you have time to talk? Well, I just picked up the phone and called her because sometimes it's easier. 6 emails that did nothing other than when can I call you? That's not what email's for. And the same could go through for texting or some other forms of communication, which we'll cover. Deadline tracking email knows nothing about dates, times, deadlines, escalation paths, doesn't know squat. And I'm going to tell you, email is horrible for document collaboration, or I put here coordination. Should have put collaboration. So even though I didn't talk about it here, so I come up with Excel spreadsheet version 1. I send it to you and 3 other people. They each make individual changes and send it, but now I've got 3 copies of something and they're all different. I don't know what I'm doing. I pick one and I go and I'm missing something legal. You see how bananas it gets. Document collaboration. Actually, maybe I'll do a webinar on that someday. I actually like Microsoft 360, the live one online lets you do it, but the Microsoft Suite, or I'm sorry, the Google Suite, Google Docs, you can live. 6 people could be in a document all typing at once, different color cursors all over the place. So there are definitely better ways for having one version of a document that everybody knows is the correct version with all the right things in it. Law firms are very used to dealing with things like this. Big corporate is very used to dealing with things like that because I actually would have a repository what I would have to use to every document, like some mundane memo would get checked in, and all versionings and all people that touched it and the editor, everybody had their finger on it, but it was in one central place. Small businesses don't operate like that. It's too much overhead. So they use email to swap things back and forth. It is the worst use of email ever on the planet. So right up front, I wanted to show you, what is email good for? What is it not good for? And you can see what it's not good for is a lot of things that you're going to want a claim management system to kind of handle. Okay, so these slides look like crazy. Graphic design, maybe not my strong point. Research, communication, business, all that, I'm good with it. So when we're talking about email, people will call me up and they'll say, my email server Outlook. And I'll be like, no, no, no. Email is in different parts, right? So we're going to kind of, this is the basics we're going to go over. So your desktop client is a piece of software that you download on your computer. So not a web browser. You download this like Microsoft Outlook, Mozilla Thunderbird, which I used to use on a Mac Mail. The Apple Mail kind of thing, or Microsoft Outlook, which is pretty popular as far as a desktop version goes. Download the software, you tell the software where your email is, and it sucks it down and lets you read it, things like that. Webmail is something like Gmail. When people go to a web browser and they log in and they get their email that way. ClaimWizard is a web application, a web app, where Gmail, say, is webmail, right? So you have to go through web browser to get to it. Office 365 Live lets you log into your email from anywhere. So if I wasn't home or at my home computer where I have Outlook installed locally, I could still go to any web browser at a hotel or something. Hopefully, it's a private connection and log into my email and grab it, right? So that's what you're talking about, webmail clients. Both of those are clients that you use to read your email. It's not the server, it's not any of that stuff. And your mobile apps are exactly that. It's a specialized program, just like a desktop app that's special for your phone. I'm not an Android user, but I believe they have a version of Gmail that's on there because it's all Google products. And Apple, most likely it's the built-in Apple Mail in there. So you've got those three pieces. And then from there, you have somewhere in the middle an email hosting provider, um, a lot of people will call it an ESP, email service provider, right? Their job is to be a big, everybody says cloud-based, right? Cloud-based is not scary. Cloud-based just means the file server sitting in somebody else's office or somebody else's building, right? Instead of your building under the desk where someone trips on it or the cleaning crew unplugs it by accident, or it doesn't get backed up. It is in a big, huge warehouse that's professionally cooled and monitored and secured, but it's a machine sitting there just like a machine in your office. That's all the cloud is. So what happens here, and you might see Google G Suite for those of you that pay, I think it's what, $50 or something a year per email address or per account on Google to have your own domain, email, that sort of thing. Microsoft 365, the same. Traditionally, it's been Microsoft Exchange, where people would have the box sitting in their server someplace and pay somebody a lot of money to fix it when it didn't work. Now, Exchange can be cloud-based, right? So you can be out on the cloud, and it's, I'm throwing air quotes here. And there are other places too that will kind of do that hosted mail for you. But then there are places like Rackspace, which actually is about 20 minutes from my house, and they took over an old abandoned 1980s mall. And the old J.C. Penney in the mall was completely stripped down and retrofitted, and it is nothing but file servers now. It's pretty awesome. But a solution like that, you have to have the knowledge of how to install and maintain the software, where honestly, it is a whole lot easier to just get Google or get Microsoft, give them your credit card and kind of deal with it. But when you're sending email or receiving email, it looks very much like this kind of graphic on the bottom. You hit your mail client. So we'll say Outlook on your computer. From there, Outlook pushes it up into the internet, into the cloud, into that email server and processes it and figures out where it's supposed to go next. And then from there in the middle, it goes over the internet. The internet's different than the World Wide Web, but we'll just the internet. From there, the internet puts it into somebody else's inbox. So maybe you're using Microsoft 365 and the other person is using Google G Suite. Well, those two now have to talk to each other. And then from there, it goes to their mail client, maybe on their phone, and then to them. And the whole process works back and forth all over the place. So sometimes when something breaks, it's usually email server to email server. And there are a lot of clearinghouses in the middle. So if you do things you're not supposed to with your email, there are literally global entities that will blacklist you and prevent your email server from sending or receiving email. Like it's a huge industry. So another question that I get quite often, actually, and these are gonna be here. You're gonna have the slides. I'm not gonna read from them, but should I use IMAP or should I use POP? Like when you're going to set it up, you're like, what's the difference? The too long didn't read version is Lynette says use IMAP, because what that is all of your messages stay on the file server. Otherwise, when you download something on your phone, it goes in your phone and disappears off the internet or off the cloud. And then when you go to work and open up your laptop, there's no email. Well, where did it go? Well, it's stuck on your phone now. IMAP, it all stays in one place, and all these things do is read them. They look at them, they read them, they send new ones, and you're good. Especially in your industry, you need to keep copies of things, and file logs and all that baloney goes with it. So if you're ever going through, 99% of email now is IMAP, so you should be good with that. But if you want the deep dive geek, I did put it there for you. Okay. Next, I want to talk about How to organize your inbox for professional success. My personal inbox is actually much better managed um, than our group emails at work. I'll say that. Um, so somebody said this to me the other day. Um, we were talking about email, like, how does ClaimWizard handle email, et cetera. And he goes, I get paid the big bucks to deal with clients and to settle claims. I don't get paid to sit around and do email all day. And I was like, wow, actually, you're right. Um, and then this showed up. So it made me think of it. Your day should not be comprised of dealing with emails all day. Even office staff should not have to deal with emails all day. So you have to have a system to deal with them. There is no replacement for email when it comes to work communication with clients and vendors and carriers and things like that. So the best we can do is learn how to organize what we have. And the second thing we can do is get rid of the things out of email that don't belong there. I'm going to show you how to do that too. So I always say that your inbox is barely adequate to manage your email. Like if you just had the default setup of inbox and sent and draft, you would be underwater with your position at your job or at your company. So how can you expect something that is barely sufficient enough for basic communication to handle running your entire business? It's just not. And I found this picture on the internet and listen, I'm telling you, it's one of your offices. I don't know who, but someday I have literally walked into offices that look like this. So when you talk to me on the phone and I say I've walked into offices where there's piles of manila folders and each pile is a different status, they literally look like this. That's what your inbox looks like to me. That's what my inbox looks like to me, right? The ugly truth here, and these will have clickable links when you get the slides, is the average person spends about a third of their day in the office on emails. And I've repeatedly talked to adjusters where every Friday or every Monday is office day, and they hate it because they sit down and they answer emails and they look up information and that all of it's baloney. And then when you think about it, when you get an email and it dings, you're like that Pavlov's dog, right? Like if it dings, you start drooling because you think you're going to get a treat because you know you have an email, right? There are people in my office that is the email dings as soon as it comes in. I have mine set to every 10 minutes, so at least I get a break, right? But as soon as it dings, you're compelled to go and look at your email. And then you have to read it and decide what you're going to do with it and file it and all these other things. And it generally takes you about 20, 23 minutes to get your head back in the game of what you were doing before. That's insane. Plus, most people get an average of 126 emails a day back in 2017. I have a shot of my inbox from today, I will show you, and it's more than that. So it's pretty crazy. If you multiplied 23 minutes to 126 email, it's like 48 hours. So it's just not feasible, right? We have to do better. So this is my inbox, right? So and granted, you're going to see I had the way that Outlook works, I have all my accounts going in one. So I as of 2 hours ago, I had 213 unread emails for today. My ClaimWizard, my number one box here, had 3 unread emails. I probably got about 60 today, but there are 2 people in the world, right? So there's the people that will let their inboxes grow and grow and grow, and they know somewhere in their head where the status of everything is. And there's other people that when it says unread, it makes them insane. Unread emails make me crazy. Um, I have 3 in here only because I didn't get to it because I was doing something else. You can see our support inbox, 200 emails today. Although that is a group box, so multiple people will get that. My personal Gmail, 6, because it wasn't the end of work, so I didn't have to look at it yet. So, that's pretty much how probably all of your inboxes look as well. So when you get an email in, I'm going to say, and I didn't cover it in here because there's emails so big and so wide and so deep. A couple things I really recommend off the top is think about using tags. So when emails come in, you can tag it work or personal or critical or follow up or whatever those things are. How you tag things in Gmail is different than how you do it, say, on Outlook. So it's very easy, just kind of, Google's your friend. Um, but when you get that email and you hear it ding, or you're at lunch and you're kind of going through your inbox, you can't just browse your email and then close it and walk away and do something else. None of us do that. You're going to have to deal with it. And I like to deal with information when it comes to me, and then I forget about it until the next appropriate time. Just like in ClaimWizard, I tell you, if you get an email that has to do with a claim, forward it, BCC it, whatever, into the claim and forget about it. If you don't, if it's just informational, you don't need to act on it. It's there. Who cares? You're going to, if you need it, it's there. If you don't, who cares, right? I'd rather front load stuff. So the very first thing that I believe you should do with an email is, do I even need it? Should I delete it? I love to hold on to email. My personal Gmail account has emails since 2007. I keep buying more space to hold emails from 2007, and I don't need those emails. One of these days, I'm going to nuke the whole thing and be done with it. If you don't need it, delete it. Very hard to do. We feel like, the internet is infinite. We can just let it sit there, but it just clutters your inbox. The next thing I want you to think about is delegating it. And a lot of this comes from getting things done, inbox zero kind of methodology, which is when we started ClaimWizard. That was kind of our methodology, but applying it to the entire claim process, not just email. So you're going to look at this email and you're going to say, am I the best person to deal with this? If it's yes, you can keep going. If no, forward it to the person it needs to go to. And when they finish answering the person, they're going to take you off that loop, because then all of a sudden it becomes this CC respond to. There's 17 people in here. And then you have to rethink about this email every time it comes back in your inbox. Then the next is, can I answer this in 2 minutes or less? If it's yes, do it, because otherwise you have to take brain space going forward. So you just answer it. If you have to defer it, if you have to think about it or go back and research something or call someone to find an answer, any of that, tag it as deferred. And then when you get a chance to sit down and actually concentrate, you can answer all of those emails. I don't like to let things go more than a day or two, depending, if you're an office person, it's, really expected within the day. If you're living out in the field, maybe a day or two. You're going to know what's best for you. But then the next thing is, it says, can I respond in 2 minutes, or can I actually complete the task in 2 minutes? So there may be a response to say, yes, I can check that out. I'll get back to you by tomorrow, just because you want that person to be felt taken care of. But can you actually get them the answer and just hit respond and say, yes, here's the answer? So I want you to think about that as well. Those are the 5 things. This is the only thing you should be doing in your inbox: deleting, delegating, responding, deferring, or doing. There are no other options. Spam, that's it, right? So here I kind of came up with a list, so you could think amongst yourselves, sort of thing, about the different types of email that you may get into your inbox, right? Whether it be a group inbox for a department, or just inbound queries from people that are interested in your services, all the way down to the nitty gritty of, negotiations back and forth of settlements. So if you got an email from a carrier looking to change an appointment date and time, is that a delete? No. Is it a delegate? Maybe. Maybe you have an admin and you can just send it to her and she knows your calendar. And why should you have to just put forward, send it to her? She already knows what to do, right? So can you respond? Maybe you're going to respond to it saying, okay, he needs to move at 3:00 on Thursday. Yeah, that's fine. Whatever. Hit respond. If you need to defer it and you don't know when you can meet with him, or you don't know if that's a good date and time, you have to push it off to later till you can check your calendar. Or maybe you can say, right away your calendar is free and you can get it in there. So that's kind of the thing. Think about the typical type of emails that you would get in a day. I can't believe my children are texting me about Chinese food tonight. All I know is I don't have to cook. An inquiry from a client regarding a settlement amount. Do you have to answer right then and there? Well, maybe you can respond and say, yes, my office told me that we did get checks in or whatever. I'm going to email you later with an exact amount. So think about how all of these in your real life get broken down. If an overseas family member emails you about their lottery winnings and all they need is your, bank routing number, that's a delete, right? Some email programs, I do is I have a junk folder and I just drag and drop it into a junk folder. And then when I get a chance, I tag them all and I tell Microsoft Outlook that it's spam. And then it kind of gets it in there. So you can kind of go through this list and figure out like, how would you handle it? Because if you think ahead on that, when it comes in, you don't actually have to make the decision then and there. You can just say, okay, this is what I'm going to do with it. Is transferring information from your inbox. Because remember, your inbox is a tool, it's not a destination. That's our thing. Into some sort of claim management tool. If you're using Microsoft OneNote. So I do know people that use Microsoft OneNote and you can actually forward emails into there. I haven't figured it out yet, so please don't ask. I'm going to learn myself. But if that's how they're keeping track of claims, that's what they do. If they're using Google Drive or the whole Google suite, they can kind of tag it to go with some files or some documents. If you're using ClaimWizard, I'm going to show you how to do that. But really, you want to put your emails, the relevant emails into claims, into the place that they belong into. And of course, my meme is one does not simply ignore an imploding inbox. One gets up and runs away from it as fast as they can. So what I wanted to do, and this again is for your benefit for later, since Microsoft Outlook and Gmail are the most popular like email readers, right? So these are two screen caps that will kind of show you how you can put labels on your inbox or in your thing. So make labels that apply to you and move them on there. So you may actually want to come up with labels that say delegate, defer, whatever. So when you can sit back, delete, you can do right then and there. Do it. You're just going to hit respond and do it, or respond. You're just going to hit respond and do it. But if you need to do some of those other things, I suggest setting up a tagging system, a labeling system, so that you already can group them together and say, okay, these I need to package up and give to my admin, or these I need to package up and send over to my adjuster so he knows, all these came in from him and you need to pay attention to him or something. But it's really easy to do on your phone, on whatever. I will say to try to use the same type of platform across your computers. So for example, I use so many pieces of software, right? I use Outlook on my computer at home and I use my computer at work when I'm there. Easy, right? On my phone, I use the Apple stuff. So the tags don't come across, the flags don't come across. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put Outlook for my phone, then it's Outlook, it's Outlook, it's Outlook. And then the tags and the labels and all these other things kind of come across, and it makes it very easy for me so I don't lose track of what's going on. Orange is this, blue is that, purple is that. It's a lot easier if you kind of stick in one ecosystem and live that way, for sure. Now, it probably won't work across team emails. So if you're using an inbox like claims@myadjustingcompany.com, if you have multiple people in that inbox, which is perfectly fine, you just set up the ID and the password on everybody's computer. Dealing with emails when there's multiple people in there sending and receiving and what have you can be very difficult. So I have a tool for you that will probably help. ClaimWizard. We do have this online, but I kind of wanted to show it here. So in ClaimWizard, every single claim has its own email inbox. So an email is just a file, right? An email is a file like a EXE or a PDF or a PNG or whatever. It's just a file package for us. When you look at your claim in the upper right-hand corner, you're going to see an email address. On your computer or on your phone, if you click on it or push it with your finger, it is going to open up your email program. We don't have control over that. So whatever your computer thinks your email program is, what it's going to do. I will say PCs, like Windows-based machines, very nice. You say, oh, I use this for email or that for email, and it remembers. Mac, stupid. Always forces you to use Apple Mail, even though I'm using an Outlook product. So for me, it can be a little hairy like that. If you're on your phone, it's going to open up with whatever the default email is. It's going to fill out some information for you, claim number or whatever, and then to and from and CC. So it copies itself back into the email, into your system. So that part's pretty easy. And then where you're going to find it is in your activity log. So every single claim is siloed to itself. It doesn't understand information or finances of any other claim. So your activity log per claim is where you're going to find those emails. So when you click in there, then you're going to get a choice. So you're going to go in, and in your email archive, if you look on the dark bar where it says email archive, there's a little clock icon and there's a little email icon. The clock icon is your notes, your diary, your time-stamped type things. You may have something in there that says, yes, we received an email this date and time from this person, but it's not going to show you your entire email. It's just a snippet. You would actually have to click on the email folder to get the whole email. Otherwise, it would fill up your entire screen with one email with the back and forths, and you wouldn't get a chance to see any of your other activity log entries. But if you want to see every email that's come in for, a certain period of time or whatever, on your dashboard, there is a messages tab. There's two things you can look at. Your waiting review, which means we got an email that we know is valid, but we can't quite match where it belongs, right? Maybe the two in, whoever you were sending it to, in ClaimWizard rather, was incorrect. Like instead of typing 2020, I've been notorious for typing 3030 for the year lately. Like I'm trying to get this year over with as quickly as possible. So I fat finger it and it winds up in media in review in the queue. Otherwise, you can click on received and it will show you all of the ones that have been successfully received and filed. So that's across all of your inbox or all of your ClaimWizard everywhere, no matter what claim it is. So if you're always looking to see if ClaimWizard receives something, that's a great place to go. But this is honestly where emails pertaining to a case belong, because you get to choose which ones are pertinent to the claim, which ones are, I mean, technically everything's discoverable, but honestly, if you give people a package out of ClaimWizard that has everything in it, they're going to accept it for what it is and go on with their day. Otherwise, you're digging through your inbox from a year and a half ago to find that one email. Send it in a ClaimWizard, forget about it. If you need it, awesome. If you don't, who cares, right? That's what I say. It is difficult to search. Email inboxes are not known for their search robustness, to say the very least. So of course, here's where your dashboard and your messages are. So all received and filed and received and unfiled. So the ones that need moderation that we don't know where they go in that messages tab. So this is where I wanted to kind of highlight that when you're looking at your activity log, it's just going to have the snippet of the email. So that's the one on the left-hand side. That very first one under there, it says 25th of October, 2019, saved an email to the archive, who it's from, the subject we fill in automatically with the claim number. But if you click on it, you're going to be like, where's my email? I cannot tell you how many times this week people are like, where's my email? It's getting cut off. We're not, I promise. If you look in the email archive with that, that's where we kind of separate it out. We have quite a few clients that want just the activity diary messages or just the emails, or they want both. So we've separated it out so you could get one, either, or both. So the next is, I want to talk about digital communications that work besides email. Because when I started thinking about email as a fax machine, then you want to use email less, right? So this is another one. How many people here have had somebody answer your email and they put the answer in the subject line and then the body of the email is whatever? Yes, thank you very much. I've done it myself by accident. So another meme to the rescue. Emails are bad. I will say, for internal communication within your team, emails become bad. Emails really should just be, in my opinion, for external communication, because that's how other people are. Phone calls, yes, but even with the phone call, I believe that you should write up an email and saying, thank you for the phone call, we discussed X, Y, and Z. And if it's wrong, they're going to email you. Otherwise, it's in the record kind of thing. But internal communication is a much different ebb and flow, especially now since we're working home with COVID, right? My team is used to being in one location, and now, well, two of us are in one house, but the others are all over San Antonio. Like, it's not an easy way to communicate when you can normally just like roll your chair back and yell out your door or something. First of all, email, there's so much email, 100, 200 emails a day. It's information overload. When you send an email internally, you're basically putting your message on par with anything crucial coming from an attorney, a client, a carrier. everything is equal at that point. They all have the same weight, and they're not the same. The emails don't always have the same importance. Um, it's too much. Email is also not made for real-time conversations. For, can I get something? Hey, do you have this? Did you hear back from this client yet? That back and forth is very difficult, and being on the phone or texting is very hard with that. So chat programs for internal communications, emails are too long. Not at this company, thankfully, but I used to work, everybody used to work someplace else. I had one person. Every single email, every single day, he changed his email footer to include the weather and whatever, and it was great. And he would have these long things about, I'm like, did you get the backup that you needed from the file server? Yes or no? And it was a whole big thing. And then other people, you'd ask 3 questions and they would answer you yes. Like, yes to what? Like, what are you talking about? They're either too long or too short. So email goes for that for staff. Emails, in my opinion, also tend to err on the side of too formal when sometimes you just need like something that's more akin to texting. Like I'll be honest, I don't really need correct capitalization, punctuation, and grammar. If my team and I are just chit chatting real quick on something, to get an answer, I don't care. But email feels like more of a formal communication. Emails are not an effective content repository. It is not that. It is not an archive tool. It's a medium to get it from point A to point B. Um, we've talked about that. Too many messages over too many channels. I will talk to a good number of public adjusting companies, especially the office staff, and it's like if they can't get a hold of their boss in email or they email and they don't answer them in 5 minutes, they text them. If they don't answer the text, they call them. And it's like all of this. And then finally they get back to the one, and then there's something else, and it's crazy. And which one am I supposed to respond to? Then in 2 weeks, when you need that answer again, well, was it email? Was it text? Where was it? It's all over the place. You're spreading it's like sprinkles all over the place, right? Spam filters are also probably in play when you're talking about domain to domain emails, right? So unless you're using Gmail or Yahoo or Hotmail, like a free program, which I got some talks for you coming up when I talk about how to make your public adjusting company look more legit. Um, like even in ClaimWizard, if we send ourselves stuff, we have to make sure that we're purposely whitelisting each other and things like that, because we could wind up blocking ourselves by accident for spam just because we're sending so many emails rapidly to each other on the team. It's not really built for that. And then email doesn't facilitate effective feedback, because a lot of times people will wait on an email until they have all the answers or they can be articulate with how they're going to write it. And so it delays the response when there's a lot better ways to do it. And one of the things, a friend of mine back in Philly, I forget her exact title. She's an entrepreneur on her own, and she basically works with very large corporations. She likes the big cog companies about how to facilitate communications between your team, right? How to speak properly to each other so you're understood and not saying hurtful things by accident and all that. 95% of what she does revolves around email because it's just a hot mess all the time. When I ask people to make switches and get their team not to chat over email or ask questions or conduct their intra business over email, they tell me, well, we've always done it this way. It's the easiest way. That's the least path of resistance. And they say the most dangerous or most expensive phrase in our language is that we've always done it this way. So I want you to think about ways that you can peel yourself out of that email a little bit. So I'm seeing, based on a lot of you, that the best, probably most efficient and CYA type ways for you to deal with outside people, clients, vendors, carriers, those sorts of things, is email, because it is in writing. You can print it off and bring it to an attorney, or phone, obviously, because a lot of nuances get missed in email. People will send me email and I was like, wow, that was kind of short and curt, and she must be ticked. And you never know what kind of day somebody's having, right? And it was more like she was just like typing off a quick answer while she was going to a meeting, and she didn't mean to kind of sound snippy with me or whatever. So you lose a lot of that humanness in translation. But if you're going to do it by phone, obviously, there's a lot more unsaid communication of feelings that come out over the phone. Always follow up an email. Always, always, always get it in writing. Keep your receipts, yo. That's what I say. And with staff, I truly believe a chat program like Slack. That's what I recommend. You can use it for free. It's great. You don't have to pay a penny for it. We use it, although we do pay for it. And action items. If there is internal communication that has to do with a claim, I truly believe that you should put an action item, like an on-demand action item. So it is has an escalation path, a due date. It is automatically documented, and everyone on the team that has access to that claim can see it for accountability's sake. Um, Text messages between two people get lost, like things fall through the cracks. So I believe that action items in chat are the best for internal communication. Now, as far as what you can do to make your email life a little easier, right? So Gmail has it. I think you can buy extra programs for a couple bucks a month here and there that will allow you to do it. And I know if you're using desktop software, there's a product called Text Expander. I use something similar in our help desk ticketing system. So when you're going to do the same answers, like how do you reset in my case, how do you reset your password? How do you add a new user? That sort of thing. I have pre-filled text. I click a button, it fills it in the email, and I send it. And I don't have to think about it. I don't have to relook up links. I don't have to do any of that stuff. A lot of call centers will use a text expanders because it is a quick way to get very nicely formatted information that's correct and vetted, etc. out. Outlook has something in there, and I just learned it today. So I'm going to have to learn about it and report back to y'all that you can basically do the same thing. You can have email templates. So, thank you for becoming a client of, my public adjusting company. These are the things you're going to need to know. So instead of sending a welcome letter, maybe you have a welcome email and the information is pre-filled out. You can add or delete whatever you want and then hit send and it goes. But the text expanders are very, very nice. And I don't believe that they're expensive at all, a couple bucks a month. Now, as far as shared inboxes go, this one I've used before in the past for Gmail, and it could be a free Gmail account. So it's at gmail.com, like if that's what your email ends with, or if your email is your own domain and you pay for that kind of that corporate G Suite or whatever it is. Hiver is what it's called. And it basically behaves like a ticketing system. So if 6 people are all in one inbox, you can see who did what. You can escalate things. You can say, oh, I responded to that. You don't have to call her, those sorts of things to kind of keep things in line. Next, Slack is a program I absolutely love. You can have different channels. It's very old school texting. You can put memes in there. You can integrate it with other pieces of software. I know we're looking to put it in with our stuff as well. It's just a really good chat program, and you can have it on your phone as well. So your team doesn't necessarily have to share all of their personal cell phone numbers, or you don't have to start all these wonky groups of texts of groups of people to get messages out. It is a fully functioning chat program. You can have a channel just for your office staff, a channel just for your execs, a channel just for your adjusters, a channel you can put your vendors in there, whatever. It doesn't matter. It works really well for stuff like that. And they have questions, pop it in, get an answer, go on with their day. And then, of course, getting things done is a really good methodology to kind of follow as far as kind of combating your inbox. And then I just put a little bit of snippet because I am a research nerd about Merlin Mann, who kind of coined the term inbox zero. And despite what people think, it's not actually having 0 unread emails in your inbox. It's about dealing with your inbox as it comes to you and not letting it pile up and become overwhelming. So there's some information for you there. Okay, so that's about it on this. I just have a couple more things that I always like to cover kind of at the end of the webinar. I love the meme where the little girl kind of throws a match over her, oh, there was a spider, got it kind of thing. I always think it's funny, but yeah, email is so overwhelming and so stifling. And I do know people in the public adjusting industry that have office staff, and the only job that office staff has is to go through that one person, that one owner's or adjuster's inbox and deal. Can you imagine paying somebody 40, $50,000 a year just to look at your email all day? Like that's mind blowing. If we learn how to compact it down a little bit and deal with it and put it where it actually belongs in your claim system, move stuff out to a calendar, delegate things out, it can become bearable again. I'm not quite at the end of the tunnel myself. Obviously, you and I are in different industries, but it can be done. Just so you know, we have obviously the webinars. We've consolidated everything on our claimwizard.com/webinar page or our YouTube channel if you want to go sub there. And then our podcast is also out. But either way, we're really looking to put business building ideas and tools in your hands. Rising tide raises all ships. This way, we can, one does better, we should all do better.